going to share the story of Parched Village today, right? Parched Village, as it's called, it's a small village located on a scorching hot land. Look at the land, look at the ground, it's all cracked. Therefore, water has become the ultimate resource of survival. Fortunately, there is a small spring close by, not far from the village. Ironically, the spring is on top of a mountain and blocked by spiky plants and surrounded by rocks. And under the village elders' hard work, they were able to build a trail to access the spring. Although it's a lot of work, but it's totally worth it, right? Because it's a path to the spring. And additionally, they actually built a water tank too, so that they think as a safety, people can put water in there and it will provide water when it was needed, like some sort of emergency, they will have water. So they set up a set of rules that every animal that carry water bags from the spring will carry extra so they can fill up the tank for everyone if there's an emergency, right? And to appreciate the elders, the hard work they did, and they are guarding the tank every day under the sun. So they gave them the privilege of drinking directly from the tank. You can't really say they're prosperous, but they live safely and under the drought with the wisdom of elders. Sadly, 20 years later, the last elder passed away. So who's gonna lead the village? Orchis was the last one out of all the villagers who had been there when the village was founded. So the villagers was like, let's make you the leader then. However, the ostrich was so old, not only was his eyesight bad, but he couldn't hear well too. Like, how can he guard the water tank, right? So the villagers become very worried. Fortunately, the hippo volunteered to take the ostrich place, guard the tank. The old, barely mobile ostrich agreed immediately. He feels so grateful for the offer. But the villagers knew that the hippo had volunteered only because he was too lazy to walk to the spring. But seeing the old ostrich so happy, they didn't say anything. So see, like the hippo is so lazy. Not only he's lazy, he became bossy and started threatening all the villagers to bring back more water. Like this one. Like, you have a lot of family members and more mouth drinking here, so you should carry extra water back from the stream. But they're only children. And one day, the villagers discovered that the once abundant spring water was dwindling. It's just decreasing. The spring is the water is just getting less, right? And they told the hippo, and he didn't believe them. And the hippo thought they were just making excuse to not bring the water back. He got really angry and randomly and unjustly increased their bucket carrying quotas. Like you see here. Baboon, go bring back 20 more buckets. Tiger, bring me 50 more buckets. Super random. In fear of having their quota increase even more, the villagers silently obey. Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah, it is really dark if you think about it, right? Because they silently obey the hippo because they're feared to have to bring more water back. The stronger ones were able to carry the task, but the weak one didn't, right? The villagers under indescribable pain reported this to the ostrich. What can he do? He was so old. So he decided to write a letter to the hippo and hope he understands. And the village took this letter to the hippo, and the hippo look at the letter, then look at the villagers, then look at the letter again and ask, have you all read this letter? The villagers nodded. And does the Andy not say, please take this under consideration? The villagers nodded again. And surprisingly, the hippo tore the letter in half in front of everyone and tell everyone to listen to his new rules. Shocked, the villagers continued to obey the hippo. They knew that if they tried to negotiate with him more, they'll probably get the same or even worse result. As the days passed, the water in the spring decreased little by little, and finally, the villagers' biggest fear came true. On a particular hot afternoon, the spring dried out completely. And the villagers were scared. It's like, what should we do? And they're like, oh, there's that water tank that built exactly for this purpose. So they ran back to the village, but found out it was empty. There's no water in the water tank. And they're like, where's the water? Where's the water that we worked so hard to get? The villager cried. And there's a hole. The gazelle saw there's a hole in the middle of the tank. And the meerkat volunteered to explore because he's probably the only one who can fit in, right? So the meerkat dove into the tunnel, crowd in through the dark. Finally, he saw a light at the end. And the meerkat poked his head out of the hole and laid eyes on an unbelievable scene. The hippo had used landscaping to disguise the fact that he had connected the water tank's water to his own pool in his own backyard. And when the meerkat poked his head out, the hippo was chilling in the pool. Time seems to stop as the four eyes met. And the two animals each let out a loud scream. The meerkat ran back, told everyone the water has been stolen by the hippo. It's on his backyard. The animals who has been swallowing in the heat all raced to the hippo's backyard. Upon sight of the precious water, the villagers couldn't care less about hippo's commanding stance. They all dove into the pool at once, spraying jets of water everywhere. And the hippo was angry. What are you doing? Go away, the hippo angrily shouted. And the villagers were like, you're the one who stole all the water. Does this mean you wanted to bring extra water just so you could have a nice soak in the pool? Everyone was in the pool arguing. And what do you think will happen? Everyone's in the pool.
They all die.
Crack. The pool could not withstand the weight of many animals and shattered. All of the animals, including the hippo, fell into the in the valley and disappeared without a trace. From an unknown source, a dark rain cloud floated over the village. Suddenly, it was pouring in a lightning lit thunderstorm that had not happened in years. Can be and.
It was like that in like the story because like so before it was nice and happy, but then like the government got a new person or whatever, like they got the ostrich and the hippo, and then like the government started like abusing the people. And I think like the government would use weapons. The hippo used threats along with like the ripping of the letter that I still don't know how they got. And then basically like the people are beginning to suffer because of the rules of the government did, and like the animals were suffering because of what like the hippo did. He's like it was the water like water is actually pretty heavy, and they have to bring a lot. That's like the people under the government's control eventually like not really crumble, but eventually they're just gonna like give up. But
Mhm.
then if they start the hippo got even angrier, so then like they had to impose even more rules. So like the government probably put more rules to like snap the people into shape. So then in the end it turned out really bad. So like the people suffered. And then in the story the hippo eventually suffered and we don't know what happened to them. So I think the people are gonna start suffering first and then the whole government is gonna come crashing.
I would get a new elder.
If I were the villagers, I would try to tell to the old ostrich or something that we need to elect a new elder or
The new leader.
and then new leader, and then I tell them to ban the hippo.
Write a petition to make him to change the elder, and then instead of just choosing it, voting.
Oh, okay. Use a voting
And
system.
maybe we could make it instead of like a dictatorship kind of thing. We could have like multiple elders instead of just one that has all
Like
the
a
power.
council.
Yes,
or
a
something.
council that makes decisions on how the water tank should be used for.
They can like put like several elders and like they can vote an elder. So like everyone or most people agree on one people and we can have several. So it's not just like one person is like, I do this, I don't care. Like it's just like sure because if there's only one elder, they have all the power. But sometimes the elder might not be the best decision. The point is if you misuse power, everything's gonna turn out wrong.
Exactly.
Like what happened in the story. Hippo. Sort of, and like what like you said you were talking about like the government does something wrong and then the people suffer and then the government and people suffer.
Yeah, everyone suffer, right?
I think
no one benefits.
And I think the hippo was taking advantage of his power and using his strength to abuse people for personal gain. If I were the hippo, first of all, I would not make them carry so much water. And second of all, I would also if I really desperately needed it, I would make sure that the villagers had, if I really desperately needed to add water into my pool, I would at least first make sure the villagers had enough in case of emergency, and then I'd ask them for permission to do it.
I think the hippo should just get the water from the spring himself and make it in his own pool, because technically he's not stealing stuff.
But he's making all the villagers to do it. Right.
Which is even worse.
The government used their power to abuse people for personal money so they can get rich.
It's talking about red envelopes, how it's a gift, and they're like, we're gonna tax it, because why not?
I had to actually protest in camera. My heart was hurting after screaming.
Like there's 2,800 or something, but there was a large amount of people. They all voted it's a gift. They all put it's a gift. But then people hey, we're gonna put that 7 people actually said it was a gift. It's false. Though, and then later, I think later or something, they actually revealed all of them that had actually said it was a gift.
I have a question. Yes. I didn't quite understand why. Well, I didn't quite understand how they removed the tax bills from 91, 90, everyone, not all the way to 96, but not 92, and I didn't understand why. Also, technically, you know how we spent more money in court cases and like asking for lawyers and things than then instead
The actual amount. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Why do you think we're doing that?
Because people wouldn't, because a lot of like richer, the one with more money, like people, 就像是姐 or 弟子, they told 师傅 to just pay it and it would be over. But then 师傅 didn't want to do that because he's like, no, we can't let them think that they can just torture people. He wasn't doing it just so they could have their land back. He was doing it for like the entire like area of
prove
Taiwan.
to people
So,
that
like, they wouldn't give tax case, so that he just wouldn't give up. He wouldn't like throw in the towel and just like say, okay,
He's
fine.
basically proving that he won't bend.
Years of protesting.
also he's not, Tai Ji Men is not the only victims of these fake taxing kind of things, and a lot of people fall for it or admit that they did it even though they didn't. And I think Shifu wants to show that even you don't have to say that you did, because if you didn't, just because
He spends more money because he wants to show the world he's not the kind of person who's just gonna be like, okay, I'm not gonna do this thing.
And
He's
then
gonna fight against what's wrong and actually show the truth. And not just go along and hope it's gonna go all right.
And a lot of people they lost their houses and lives. They lost their houses and all their monies, and they became homeless just because they had to pay the taxes. So Shift was doing what the moral of the story was trying to tell you to do. They just obeyed, and they just threw in the towel, and they're like, yeah, I'll just do it. But he wouldn't give up. So then after 25 years, he still wouldn't just say, okay, you can have my money, I'll pay taxes. Don't ever throw in the towel and just do something that even though you know it's wrong, so you won't have to deal with it anymore.
So basically, if the people were Shifu and didn't listen, they would probably get punished a lot. So it happened better for the tax case, but the animals, they sort of did have, by obeying, they probably had a slightly larger amount of casualties because the weaker animals couldn't do it. And I feel if all the animals had organized a revolt and attacked, they might have been able to overpower the hippo and then just follow along. So I basically made a new ending, new ending that's isn't dark or less. So basically the hippo tried to run away, but he was so lazy and the animals so strong from carrying out the water that they caught up to him quickly, and the hippo, afraid, slipped and fell into the valley and was never seen again. As the animals came back, a thunderstorm started and the Parched Village became the peaceful village. The evil part died, and yet there was still a thunderstorm at the end.